As a huge fan of the One Piece live action series, I was very concerned about the race swaps that Oda approved for the Netflix version. Like, I felt that I would rather see the characters, presented as how they're drawn in the manga, primarily white, maybe, darker skinned, not African, but like, darker shades of white. I was very, very concerned about this. But upon seeing like season two and seeing some of the castings, seeing Usopp being black, seeing Brook being black, seeing like Daz Bones being black, it became very apparent to me like what actually is happening here. Why are there so many minorities in One Piece live action? Well, the reason is that so that the primarily white cast, the Straw Hats, the protagonists, the heroes, can go up against the antagonists, who are primarily black. We've gone beyond like minority hunter Zoro at this point. Like what we're seeing now is that the majority of enemies that the Straw Hats encounter in the wild, in the Grand Line, are going to be black. And the entire series is about them going out there, beating the shit out of them, embarrassing them, humiliating them, and then proceeding to like save the world from their pure black overlord, Emu. Right? Again, Emu's always covered in shadow, so he's actually quite a bit blacker than actual black people. So essentially, what we're seeing is that Oda took a look at like what Netflix was doing, and he was just like, "All right, how do I make this work?" So he just made all the antagonists black, okay, to create the implication that being black is evil, okay. So essentially, he undermined Netflix's own agenda in by making a bunch of characters who will become antagonistic later black. It has created this like weird kind of implication. The fact is that Oda made all the characters black so Zoro can just beat them all. Minority Hunter Zoro is back in full force in One Piece live action. That's just the reality of what we're seeing. Like Oda just completely bamboozled, 4D chess played the Netflix series. Now the Netflix series is still trash and you shouldn't watch it. But this is the interesting thing about this. When you really look at like who they're switching up, like with who they're race swapping and what they're doing with. Who they're doing this to, like it becomes very apparent because Usopp is like canonically the weakest member of the Straw Hats, right? The most worthless, the most cowardly, the most underhanded, the chronic liar, right? He's a black guy in the live action version, right? That is what Oda has managed to accomplish with this adaptation is by using diversity against itself, kind of weaponizing it instead of like trying to glamorize these people and hype them up to be something they're not. Like what we get instead is Oda demonstrating just how stupid and inane like the race swapping phenomenon actually is. What we're seeing is just a full-on demonstration on like how diversity is actively making the series worse. Like this is a situation in which Netflix can't possibly succeed in. Because they can't just change the casting like years down the line. They're not gonna like try and like race swap Nojiko back after it's revealed that she's an antagonist who knows about like the flooding or whatever. Like they're not gonna do that. Like they're not gonna do that. They're again like by the time they get like assuming they get to Wano like and by the time that happens Yamato will be like they will not be able to like try and gaslight people into thinking Yamato is a troon, right? Like again, there's going to be so many situations like that where there are going to be so many like changes that they make to the manga that just don't make any sense to anybody, and that's kind of what we're seeing here with these weird race swaps. it is it's just embarrassing. It is just downright cringy and ridiculous how so many people are trying to make this out to be something it isn't. You know, like, oh, this is the canon version. Vivi was always supposed to be Indian. Oh, like, it's not only is that not true, the attempts at like subverting the manga are just backfiring pretty hard on these propagandists. Like, it is very, very interesting to kind of see just what this is ending up with, just what people are doing, like what this is amounting to. Like, we are seeing more and more people start to get sick of seeing these minorities on these kinds of shows. Like, this is something that I think a lot of people don't understand about Netflix and, like, their attempts at, like, subversion. Like, the more they try and do this, the more people are going to get sick of it. Like, the more people are going to demand that shows adhere to the original, that they don't make any changes, that they don't try to push any agendas, and until they do that, people just aren't going to watch, you know? One Piece live action is going to collapse under its own weight, and we're kind of already seeing, like, the beginning of the end of that, you know, with people, you know, bringing this up, is that, like, wait a minute, Zoro is going to be killing a lot of black people in this show. Like, again, they can't ride around it. Zoro has to win. He has to beat all these blacks, you know, proving Japanese superiority over, like, the inferior African Mongoloid. You know, that is the reality of what we're seeing with this show, is that because of the casting, because of how they're limited by the plot and by the limitations that Oda set, like, that they're contracted to do, like, the minority hunter Zoro is going to be cutting down waves after waves of diverse Grand Line Africans. And that's just the reality of it, is that because of their refusal to adhere to the manga, they have unintentionally made the series incredibly racist, which is unbelievably based. Actually, I would argue it's, like, more based in the original in that sense. So again, like, Oda played Netflix, you know, he took their money, he sold them a product that they can't possibly make money off of, you know, people are going to turn on this live action series eventually. Once it stops being produced, nobody's going to talk about it or remember it. Like, this is going to be an embarrassing situation for everyone involved. It is kind of my mentality on this. Like, One Piece is a series that truly needed desperately to not go along with the modern agenda. This is something that is great. You know, One Piece is the greatest best-selling comic of all time, and no matter what Netflix tries to do, they can't subvert or destroy this masterpiece of a manga series.